Hi, my name's Iman, and today I'm going to be talking about my experience in HCDE 313, Introduction to User Research. So this is my first time taking a user research course. Although I did have some experience in my internship last summer, this was my first time actually going through the entire process, which was really great. So I decided as a University of Washington student to do my research on campus. I wanted to focus primarily around UW students regardless of their age, gender, race, or degree or major, but primarily on if they use libraries at all. Survey. So the goal of my research was to understand how to make a more inclusive library space for students who may use these spaces. Essentially, I wanted to understand what it is about libraries that engage students to participate at the library and what can help create long-lasting study habits for them. So in essence, and through the course, we were introduced to three methods of user research, which were really cool to learn about, which the first step was field research, then interview, and finally survey. I think this was a really cool experience as, again, it was my first time being able to fully understand how to do this. So in selecting my participants and then understanding my methodology, I identified an inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. So for inclusion criteria, I wanted it to be an age range of students 18 through 28 years old, only UW students, and then they have studied in Allen Library at least 3 times, and then does not study in libraries and has only studied in libraries a couple of times for exclusion criteria. And then moving into my field research findings, this was really cool because it felt at first a little uncomfortable observing students, but it was actually really cool to learn about. And I learned that students, through my research, that accessibility, resources, and unfocused and focused students were primarily the findings in the space. And then moving into my interviews, I interviewed 3 participants, all UW students, 2 undergraduates, and 1 graduate student. And one thing that I actually learned from all 3 through this experience that they were not able to focus because of friends. So that was a really big thing that was common. So as I was going into the survey research, this was something that I wanted to focus on. So from my survey research, I used Google Forms as the platform. There were 11 questions in total, and I had 23 survey participants, and then only 16 qualified and fit the participant criteria. It was really cool being able to do this survey because, again, it was my first time, and it was really great to learn what students say. So based on all 3, I found that students are not able to really study when their friends are around. Where they study is really important. Outlets are also equally important, and also being able to have access to resources is important to their success. So for the first recommendation, I suggested a no bother study zone. I noticed that students wanted to be able to have some noise around them, not necessarily silence, but they also wanted people to know that they are focusing and they don't really want to be approached. So this highlighted red spot is actually an area where students would not be approached. Based on my second recommendation was based on the fact that outlets were really inconvenient. So being able to have these chargers that were just placed on top of every single table would be really easy for students to access, as some students aren't placed next to a wall outlet, which could make them leave the library and not create long-lasting study habits. And my final recommendation was to have students be able to log in and see whether or not the library was really busy, whether there was space for them to sit. That way they wouldn't have to waste time and be able to utilize their time well before making their way all the way to campus and deciding to use the library or not. So throughout the entire process, I really learned that, user research can be hard, but I really think that my ability to empathize with the people that I was researching and really trying to put that user at the forefront was my strength in this whole process, and I think something that I've gained a little bit stronger skills in, and I can continue to apply. I think it's really important to apply, not have this I can't mentality in mind, and make sure that you're open to all new things. As this was my very first time doing user research this extensive, I think being able to just approach things with an open mind is really useful, and again, something that I would take on. Really big thing though that I would say for anyone who is doing user research in the future, time is always of the essence. So time management is really, really, really critical, as it is difficult to, to let time get away with you. So just make sure to keep this in mind, and something I hope to keep in mind as well. Something also I'd like to, a recommendation for future to myself and to other people who may also be doing user research for the first time, is to really depend on your classmates and your TAs and professors, because user research isn't an individual thing. It's really depending on a community to do so. So something that I really took away. And a really big lesson that I took away from this course and being able to do such extensive research is, it is a process. You won't be able to be successful in that first step. You won't find all your findings automatically at the beginning, so you just have to try. You might run into a roadblock, but try again and success will come. So what is it that I plan to do now? I actually really found my research interesting, so I hope to, continue learning more about how to make inclusive library spaces. As I'm entering into my, final year next year. Libraries are something that were really useful in my time at UW, so I hope that this can be something that's useful to other students. So a big thank you, to everyone who was really helpful throughout the quarter. I think that, the mission was completed, and I was able to really understand user research in its essence and be able to apply this in my future work. So I'm really excited to be able to do so in the future. I decided to focus on libraries as my target area for research. I focused primarily on 3 libraries, and that was Allen Library Research Commons, Odegaard Library, and Low Hall Engineering Library. And I focused primarily on Allen Library Research Commons for my